Silent Night, Deadly Night 4 Initiation from 1990. Now, this is where this franchise goes completely batshit off the rails and has nothing to do with the previous three films, nothing to do with Ricky Caldwell or his older brother from the original movie, Billy Chapman, no killer Santa Claus. Instead, we get a man-hating coven of witches that are trying to conduct some type of ritual that involves a bunch of bug creatures and just disgusting ass shit on our main character, Kim Levitt. And the ritual has to take place on Christmas Eve. That is the only thing that this movie has to do with Christmas. Now, having said all that, there is a lot of talent involved in this movie. It's the best sequel in this franchise by far for me. Now, it's not a great movie. It's a decent movie. It's not even good. It's good. It's not great. That's where I'm going with it. It's not great. I'll draw the line at good because the pacing is all over the place. It's very slow. The story's not that great. It has shades of Rosemary's Baby, which is a classic movie that I have never liked. I think that film is so fucking boring, so slow. I know I'm in the minority on that one. That's just one of the classic films that never worked for me. I've given it plenty of chances. But in the way that most of the people around Kim know and are in on this, ritual, and they're in this coven and they're gaslighting her and fucking with her. That's very Rosemary's Baby. Also, where she has some really disturbing stuff happen to her, and then she wakes up and she doesn't know if it's a dream or if it really, well, a fucking nightmare with everything that happens to her, or if it really happened. But there is a lot of good stuff in this movie. This is the only sequel since the original that I feel like is worthy of actually watching. Sitting down and watching it from beginning to end. The second one's a joke. We all know that. The third one is like a background film. The third movie, Better Watch Out, is great to put on in the background during the holiday season. And you look up every now and then, and you see Bill Moseley with the brain exposed and some other cool stuff. Very few, and few and far between, but it's good for that purpose. And there's a few reasons why I think this is the most entertaining and best sequel in this franchise, despite it having nothing to do with the previous three movies. This was directed by Brian Yuzna, who has directed so many classic films. He produced Reanimator, From Beyond, Dolls. Then he started directing with Society, with that whole shunting scene. Bride of Reanimator, The Dentist, this film, The Dentist 2, Necronomicon. He produced Dagon by Stuart Gordon, Beyond Reanimator. It goes on and on with Brian Yuzna. And I had the extreme pleasure of having him on the channel for an interview, and we talked for a good hour and a half. A lot of Reanimator because of the 40-year anniversary, but we talked a lot of other films too. Return of the Living Dead 3, he also directed. I've never been a fan of that one. But you can tell instantly this movie is a Brian Yuzna film. Just from the directing and then the special effects work, that's where this movie is fun. We have the legendary Screaming Mad George doing the effects, all the bug effects and creature effects, roaches, weird worm things that are shoved up the main character's vagina during a ritual, comes out of her mouth, her fingers like pressled together, all that type of effects work that's reminiscent of Society and Bride of Reanimator, all the Screaming Mad George's work, which his resume is phenomenal. He started doing makeup work on John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China. He also did some makeup work, I don't know to what extent, on these earlier movies, but on a little film called Predator. And then all the aforementioned movies directed by Brian Yuzna, he also did the effects for. He did some makeup or effects work for A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. He did the whole cockroach effect and sequence for A Nightmare on Elm Street 4. The guy's done so much stuff. Tales from the Hood from 95, the anthology. Children of the Corn, one of the sequels. And then you have some legends in this movie. You have the great Clint Howard, who plays a degenerate bum who ends up being part of this coven. Even though he's a dude and I don't know, it's a coven, but it's also a cult. It's very confusing. You also have a very decent score that I would never remember if I didn't rewatch it by Richard Band, who I also had the pleasure of having him on. He did the Puppet Master score, From Beyond, hundreds of scores. And we have Reggie Bannister from the Phantasm franchise in this, in a little role. It's nothing huge, but always great seeing him in anything. And this was written by Woody Keith, who also wrote or co-wrote Society and Bride of Reanimator. So there's a lot of good talent involved with this film. And if it had nothing to do with Silent Night, Deadly Night, like it was released under the title of Bugs in the UK, this is like the Jason Goes to Hell of this franchise. If you took all the Jason stuff and all the Friday stuff out of Jason Goes to Hell, I always say this, the effects are really good, and it would be a decent body horror film. Entertaining at the least. Same with this movie. If you took out all the Silent Night, Deadly Night, which when you put the movie on, the title card says Initiation, then Silent Night, Deadly Night 4. So if they didn't just tack on the name like they did, I think it might have been a little bit more well received. It's still not a great movie at all, but it's entertaining enough. But that's Silent Night, Deadly Night 4 Initiation. We have one left, Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, The Toy Maker, which was actually written and produced, if I recall correctly, by Brian Yuzna. And Screaming Mad George also returned to do effects work. But I remember it being fucking terrible. Oh, we'll see.